Arthur Miller is one of America's most celebrated playwrights. His plays, which include The Crucible and Death of a Salesman, have become theater classics. He has won virtually every award from the Tony to the Pulitzer. His 1991 play, The Ride Down Mount Morgan, debuts on Broadway this month at the Ambassador Theater. It stars Patrick Stewart, a veteran of the Royal Shakespeare Company, also known for his role in Star Trek: The Next Generation. He plays Lyman Fell, a bigamist who looks back on his life after his two wives meet. I welcome them both back to this table. This is not the first time you have played this.
No, we did it.
98, was it?
98 at the Public Theater,
Yeah.
down on Lafayette.
Is this different?
Yes. To the average theater goer, they'll notice there are two cast changes.
Yeah.
One of them in the role of one of the wives, so that's very significant. And the production has been expanded. We have a bigger stage. We've been able to be a little more elaborate with some of the settings. And we, along with this gentleman, have just got somewhat deeper into the play than we did before. Something like this, something so complex, 3 weeks of rehearsal, really, even 3 weeks of playing on top of that isn't enough, which is one of the reasons why I wanted us to come back and have a second shot at it.
Yeah. You don't know how you got the role in the first place. I mean, was it Joe Papp that suggested that this is something you want to take a look at?
Oh, no. My suspicion is that we have the same agent.
Oh, Sam Cohen.
Sam Cohen,
Right.
and I think that it was Sam who was putting together a package.
Yeah.
That's why it came to me. I'm sure it was Sam who called and sent me the script. Yeah.
Now, what's your role in this production?
Pest.
Pest. That's always been your role. So
I bother them.
yeah, but bother them to do what? To make sure they're
Well,
true to your inspiration?
Yes, but it's also that since I don't have the responsibility of directing it moment to moment,
Right.
I can stand back. And the tendency is in any production to say, oh, it's better today. And then somebody's got to come in and say, you know, it's still not any good, although it's better than yesterday. So
We can also make sure they don't blame the playwright.
Oh, they do. They're pretty good at that, though. They have accepted the script as I wrote it. But I think that I can give shortcuts sometimes. In other words, since I know what I intended, I can get right to what I intended instead of them bullying around and trying to search out what the meaning of something was.
Now, how did this work for you? I mean, in terms of figuring out who Lyman Fell was and what you wanted to do with him?
Yeah.
I mean, did you consult him? Did you ask him? Did you have a conversation with him?
Yeah. It's a treat and a privilege when you have the writer in the room. It is, of course, for a while intimidating too. And in this man's case, he is so accessible. And I mean, for instance, I will not mention a name. There's quite a distinguished British playwright who used to come into our rehearsals, and I remember saying to him, I don't understand what's going on here. Can you explain this to me? And he said, I don't write plays to make life easy for actors, was his response to this. You know, he wasn't prepared to open up at all about this stuff. Arthur does. I mean, I'm just thinking of something you said the other day that reverberated for me. We were talking about the last moments of the play. And our hero, although a lot of people will probably object to me calling him that, has had a sort of a profound experience that is going to make the rest of his life very different. And Arthur said, he was sitting out in the stalls, and he said, I know what it is. He's landed at the bottom of the right mountain. And I said, what do you mean, Arthur? He said, well, he's been climbing a mountain all his life. He was climbing the wrong mountain. Now he's at the bottom of the right mountain. Well, you know, that kind of insight coming from the guy who created the character is invaluable.
Yeah. What's attractive to you about Lyman?
His energy, his lust for life, certainly his lust for women, his sense of humor, his capacity for embracing the world. However, along the way, he creates mayhem in the lives of several people. And it's bad, it's bad. But I have a deep, deep affection for this guy, and he is a roller coaster of a role to play because he never stands still. He's on the move constantly. Literally, it's sometimes halfway through a line, he's shifting from one place to another. And for an actor, this makes it an interesting evening.
What did you set out to explore in writing this?
what happens when somebody really acts out his basic desires?
His fantasy.
It's not his fantasy, it's his needs.
Yeah.
When instead of hiding them and lying about them to himself, he really does what he fantasizes, what he wants to do. And what the price of that is to himself, to other people.
And that's the conflict, what the price is when someone makes those choices.
As he says to his lawyer, as the lawyer says to him, well, the truth, it's not a question of the truth is that you're expressing about yourself, but of what it does to other people. So the conflict between one's own needs and desires and one's affection or love for other people and their needs.
Was part of this your effort to talk about marriage? And
yeah, well, marriage is one of them, but
Yeah.
we have all kinds of relationships in society.
other relationships, right.
Where the ego of one is up against the needs of other people. And this conflict can never be settled, of course, but it can be illuminated. And that's what the play is trying to do.
What separates, whether you're at the Royal Shakespeare and all the things you did there, or here on American Broadway in an Arthur Miller play, great dramatist for you? I mean, what is it you instantly know? I mean, is it
Language.
language?
Yeah. We were talking about it the other day. There is one kind of writing where you have writing, decent, good writing, intelligent, smart, entertaining. And then there's language which, while being all of those things, also has a kind of secondary life to it. And I'm not just talking about subtext, and I'm not talking about poetry, although Arthur's prose is poetic. There is a sort of elevation about the language. Let me try and give you an example. Okay, I have at one point, I say to one of my wives, I say, till the day I die, I will stand amazed at your ability to speak in complete paragraphs. Now, the arc of a sentence like that is poetical, and you can't just say it. It needs just lifting up a little bit. And you've got to be careful with this, because you don't want to make it sound, high-flown or rhetorical, but there is. So that's what marks, I think, great drama. It has to be something extra in the language that makes it sing.
Is that what it is?
Well, I think that's essential in it. It's, but of course, I keep wondering whether there are certain fundamentals that never change in people, I guess. And by happenstance, sometimes a writer stumbles upon them, one of them or two of them. And they are the unchangeable conditions of human life. And when a writer who has other talents stumbles on those themes or creates them willingly, the stuff lasts. And some very good writing vanishes because it's not about something that doesn't change.
How good is American playwriting today?
You know, I can't answer the question because I don't see enough. And the reason I don't see enough is that
You don't see?
I never did go to the theater all that much.
Why not?
Oh, so many times I was disappointed by what I was looking at. And I don't want to be the judge of other people.
You wouldn't want to go see, say, Sam Shepard's.
Well, I have done, I have seen several of his work because it was, I thought, an interesting departure. If it's what I think is some formal interest for me, I'll go. I do go. But I'm not an encyclopedia of other people's work. You know,
Who do you most admire other than Shakespeare as a playwright?
well, see, I came out of a different tradition, which was the Greeks and Ibsen, because that was well, I grew up in the 30s and 40s, and basically for the same reason, that is that both of them, the scheme of their plays is how the birds come home to roost. Basically, it's the same thought. Yeah. And I found that temperamentally, that's what I was fascinated by the fact that somebody does something one year, and then 36 years later, it's there again, and it's killing him.
That's in this play.
And it's in this play. And
Day of Reckoning.
It's in every play I've written.
Mm.
So whatever does that reaches that long arm into the past, is interesting to me. Because I think that's the way we are constructed.
What does that mean? That's the way we're constructed.
It means that you are 98% the past, and it's that little tiny present that we're dealing with all the time, but what your attitudes are were formed God knows when.
And behavior and everything else.
Everything else. So the job of the play
saddest part
is
of it.
to supply the
what?
To supply the past.
Yeah, to supply the past.
And to bring it up to now when the conflict takes place.
I mean, how much satisfaction did you derive from the revival of Death of a Salesman and A View from the Bridge?
Well, it's great to see something I wrote 50 years ago in front of an audience that wasn't born then, and see them react more or less the same as people did 50 years ago. It's a feeling that maybe 50 years hence.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting. You found the response to the play, in fact, hadn't changed.
It's the same.
Same in China, too, wasn't it?
The same time.
Same thing. Same. Because these are universal ideas.
They drew a few different morals from Death of a Salesman. One of them was that Willie is right. Everybody wants to be number one man.
Yeah.
And the problem is Biff, who's trying to destroy the profit system. Yeah. He's trying to create other values.
But they said Willie was right.
Well, because
And,
they
or
were
not only right, Willie was admirable.
admirable, right, everything.
Huh?
Yeah. That's the way it went. But then, of course, on the bottom of the earth, and we're up here, so everything's backwards.
Is this your first love? I mean, when you assume you came out of the Royal Shakespeare, and now you're back on stage in a play by a well-known and highly regarded playwright. I mean, that's home for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot imagine anything being better than where I am right now. Every morning, I swear, I thank whoever's looking out for me that put me in this place. But it's a stage actor is what I always wanted to be.
That's why you got into acting.
Yeah, I never thought about film or television. Film was something that happened to other people somewhere else. The stage, I discovered as a young teenager, was the safest place in the world to be. And I had no desire to be anywhere else.
You continue to write every day, huh?
Well, not every day.
Well, you know
but
what I mean.
a lot
I mean,
of
you know,
days,
it's a-
yeah. I just wrote another play this last few months.
Resurrection.
Resurrection Blues.
Resurrection Blues. Latin America, I know this because you chatted with me about
Yeah.
this right before we started.
It takes place down there, but I can't talk about it because
Why not?
I'm never very good at summarizing what I did. You said
Well, you finished it.
Oh yeah, it's all done.
It's all done. Now, has it been published? Has it been performed?
No,
Has
I
it been?
just finished it about a month ago.
Oh. Now, how do you know when you've finished?
You don't. You get ready to abandon it.
Yeah. And
It's never finished. You can always go do.
See, that's the
something
great thing about writing a play versus, I guess, writing a novel or writing anything. Or, you know, well, if you write a novel, you got to finally say, "This is it. I've done it." Or make a film. It's done.
You know,
You
all
can-
the versions of Hamlet and all the
Yeah, exactly.
scripts of Macbeth and all the rest of it. You know, very often a new actor in a part would make a script very different than with a different actor. And the temptation is to work on the script.
Yeah. Take a look at this. This is a scene from the ride down Mount Morgan. Here it is.
What sort of business do you have? Insurance. That's what Daddy does.
No, 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 no!
Well, there's a million of us.
You in it too?
Oh, no. I'm at home to take care of my husband.
I'm hoping to sell out in a couple of years, get a place in Manhattan somewhere, and just paint. Morning to night, the rest of my life.
Really? My husband's a painter.
Professionally?
Oh, yes. He's Harold Lamb.
Harold Lamb?
What is it?
Your husband is really Harold Lamb?
Well, you've heard of him?
You're not Mrs. Felt, are you?
Well, yes.
But then you're not here for Lyman, are you?
You know Daddy?
But how'd they come to notify you?
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Why shouldn't they notify me?
Well, after so many years.
What do you mean?
Well, it's over 9.
What is?
Your divorce. You're Theodora Felt, right?
Who are you?
I'm Leah. Leah Felt. Felt. Lyman is my husband.
Who are you? What are you talking
Well,
about?
don't get angry for
Be
heaven's-
quiet.
Well, you're divorced, aren't you?
Divorce? Who the hell are you?
I'm Lyman's wife.
When did this,
She's insane. She's some kind of a nut.
It was 9 years this past July.
Oh, really? And who performed this event?
The Reno City Hall clerk, later a rabbi here in Elmira. My son's name is Benjamin for Lyman's father, and Alexander for his great-grandmother. Benjamin Alexander Felt.
Really?
Yes. I'm terribly sorry if you didn't know.
Didn't know what? What are you talking about?
We have been married a little over 9 years, Mrs. Felt.
Have you?
Yes.
And I suppose you have some document?
Well, I have our marriage certificate, I guess.
You guess?
Well, I'm sure I do. And I know I've got Lyman's will in our safe deposit box.
And it names you as his wife?
And Benjamin as his son. But I guess you have more or less the same. Is that right? There really was no divorce?
No.
Well, I guess we'd better meet. Or something. And talk.
You like it, don't you?
They play it so well, don't they?
Play it beautifully, yeah. I never get to see it from the front, of course.
We will show you another scene in just a moment. We'll give them time to rack up the third scene we have here, not the second. What's next for you after you finish this? I mean, does Star Trek continue and continue and continue?
I have no idea. There is some talk of what would be a 10th movie, but
A 10th? And you've been in 10?
Star Trek. No, the Next Generation cast have done 3 movies.
Yeah.
7, 8, and 9, and if there were another one, it would be Star Trek 10. Yeah. But I'm not involved in any of those discussions at the moment. The next thing for me is going to be, certainly as a producer, I'm co-executive producing with my company and Hallmark Entertainment and Turner, a piece for television called Boss Lear. This is development of mine based on King Lear, but it's set on a vast ranch in Texas in 1841. And we have, with Stephen Harrigan, who has just had this huge success with his new novel, Gates of the Alamo.
Right.
Has done the screenplay, and we have been able to follow literally detail by detail the Lear story. So that's what I'll be doing.
Set on a Texas ranch.
Yeah, instead of the Kingdom of Britain, it's this vast ranch, and the aged rancher decides to divide it up between his 3 daughters. And I may play one of the roles in it. I created a role of an Englishman in this, and you know, all English actors want to be in a Western once in their lives, so maybe I'll find a part.
That, and they also always want to be in a musical.
That's right.
They always want to be in a musical.
Yeah. Maybe I should just do, Annie Oakley or something like that and satisfy both of them.
We're going to go out on this last scene in which Lyman tells his first wife that he got bored with their marriage, so we'll end with that. But thank you, Arthur. It's great to see you.
Good
Take
to see
care.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
I was never bored being with you.
You'd been bored with me?
Same as you'd been bored with me, dear. Talking about normal marital boredom, like at dinner when I'd repeat some inane story you'd heard 1,000 times, like how my grandfather lost 3 fingers under the 9th Avenue trolley.
But I love that story. I was never bored with you, stupid as that was.
You were bored, Theo. It's no sin. Same as I was, dear, when you would start telling people for the 10,000th time how, as a minister's daughter, you were not allowed to climb trees and show off your panties.
But I think that story describes a kind of society that has completely disappeared. That story has historical importance.
That story is engraved on my flesh, Theo. And please, dear, don't make this a moral dilemma. It's common domestic tedium. It's life. And there is no other woman with the honesty and the strength to see it as life, if you wanted to.